Picture a country with the second largest natural gas reserves and the fourth largest oil reserves on the planet. A nation with a rich history, a young, educated population, and a strategic location bridging Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Logically, this country should be an economic powerhouse, right? But what if I told you this very nation is grappling with a severe economic crisis, marked by soaring inflation, high unemployment, and a currency in freefall? This is the perplexing reality of Iran, a country of immense potential caught in a web of complex economic challenges. How did a nation so rich in resources find itself in such a precarious position? Today, we're going to unravel the layers of Iran's economic dilemma, exploring the deep-seated issues that have shaped its turbulent financial journey. It's a story far more complex than just sanctions, involving decades of policy choices, structural weaknesses, and a constant struggle between ideology and pragmatism. So, stay with me as we dive deep into the fascinating and often misunderstood world of the Iranian economy. To truly understand where Iran is today, we have to look back. The story doesn't start with the headlines you see now. It starts decades ago. After the 1979 revolution, Iran's new government embarked on a mission to create an Islamic economy. The goal was to achieve social justice and economic independence, moving away from the Western-influenced oil-dependent model of the Shah's era. This meant nationalizing major industries, banks, and insurance companies. The government also implemented extensive subsidy programs for essentials like food and fuel, aiming to create a safety net for the population. Initially, especially during the grueling 80-year war with Iraq in the 1980s, this state-controlled system, often called a war economy, was crucial for mobilizing resources and maintaining national resilience. It was a system born out of necessity, designed to weather a storm. However, once the war ended, the cracks in this model started to show. The very policies designed to protect and provide for the people began to create long-term problems. The massive subsidy system, while popular, became a colossal drain on the national budget. It distorted market prices, encouraged wasteful consumption, think some of the cheapest gasoline prices in the world, and fueled a thriving black market for smuggling subsidized goods to neighboring countries. The state's heavy hand in the economy also stifled private sector growth, with major industries under the control of the government or quasi-governmental foundations known as banyads. True competition was scarce. These banyads, originally intended as charitable trusts, evolved into massive, often opaque conglomerates, controlling vast swaths of the economy. From construction and banking to agriculture and tourism, they often enjoyed tax exemptions and preferential access to credit, creating an uneven playing field that discouraged private entrepreneurs and foreign investors. This structure led to inefficiency, a lack of innovation, and what economists call crony capitalism, where connections and political influence are more important than business acumen. This deeply entrenched, state-centric model is the first major piece of the puzzle. It created a rigid, inefficient economy that was ill-equipped to adapt to the challenges of a globalized world. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room: oil. Iran's economy has been addicted to oil for over a century. This is what's known as the resource curse, or Dutch disease. When a country has a valuable natural resource, its currency tends to strengthen, making its other exports more expensive and less competitive. It also means the government becomes heavily reliant on oil revenue, often at the expense of developing other sectors of the economy, like manufacturing, technology, or services. In Iran's case, oil revenues have traditionally funded a large portion of the state budget, paying for everything from public sector salaries to those extensive subsidies we talked about. This reliance makes the economy incredibly vulnerable to fluctuations in global oil prices. When prices are high, the government spends lavishly. When they crash, the budget faces a massive deficit, forcing painful cuts or printing money, which in turn fuels inflation. More importantly, this dependence on easy oil money has disincentivized the difficult but necessary work of economic diversification and reform. Why bother with the complexities of tax collection and fostering a dynamic private sector when you can just pump more oil? This over-reliance has been a persistent vulnerability, a structural weakness that has haunted Iran's economy through every political era. On top of these internal structural issues, we have the immense pressure of international sanctions. It's impossible to discuss Iran's economy without understanding their profound impact. The sanctions, primarily led by the United States, but often joined by other international bodies, have been imposed over decades, targeting Iran's nuclear program, its missile development, and its regional activities. These are not just simple trade embargoes. They are a sophisticated and far-reaching web of financial restrictions designed to cut Iran off from the global financial system. Iranian banks have been blacklisted, making it nearly impossible to conduct international transactions. Access to the SWIFT messaging system, the backbone of global banking, has been restricted. Companies that do business with Iran risk secondary sanctions, meaning they could be cut off from the U.S. market, a risk most multinational corporations are unwilling to take. The impact has been devastating. Sanctions have crippled Iran's ability to export its oil, its main source of revenue. They have starved the country of foreign investment and access to modern technology. This has hit every sector, from the inability to buy spare parts for its aging airline fleet to difficulties in importing life-saving medicines. The sanctions have acted as a massive external shock, exacerbating all the pre-existing internal weaknesses. They have fueled currency devaluation, as the supply of foreign currency from oil sales dried up, and have driven inflation to crippling levels. For the average Iranian, this has meant a dramatic fall in their standard of living, as the cost of everything, from bread to housing, has skyrocketed while their savings have evaporated. This combination of internal structural flaws and external pressure has created a perfect storm. The result is an economy stuck in a cycle of stagflation, a toxic mix of high inflation and stagnant economic growth. Inflation has been in the double digits for years, often exceeding 40 or 50%, eroding the purchasing power of ordinary citizens. The Iranian rial has lost a staggering amount of its value against the dollar, making imports prohibitively expensive. Official unemployment rates, especially among the youth, are high, but the real figure is likely much higher when you account for underemployment and a large, precarious, informal sector. This dire economic situation has profound social and political consequences. It has fueled widespread discontent and periodic waves of protests across the country. People are frustrated with the lack of economic opportunities, the rising cost of living, and perceived corruption and mismanagement. They see a country rich in resources but are struggling to make ends meet. This economic pressure puts the government in an incredibly difficult position. Do they implement painful but necessary economic reforms, like cutting subsidies or privatizing state-owned enterprises, which could spark further public anger in the short term? Or do they continue with populist, short-term fixes that only postpone the crisis? So, what is the way forward for Iran? There's no easy answer, and the path is fraught with challenges. Economists agree that deep, structural reforms are essential. This includes diversifying the economy away from oil, fostering a genuine private sector by reducing the dominance of state and quasi-state entities, and tackling corruption. It means reforming the subsidy system and creating a more efficient and fair tax regime. However, these internal reforms are incredibly difficult to implement without a change in the external environment. As long as crippling sanctions are in place, attracting foreign investment, integrating into the global economy, and stabilizing the currency will be nearly impossible. This creates a chicken and egg dilemma. Meaningful economic recovery likely requires sanctions relief, but that relief is tied to complex geopolitical negotiations and concessions that are politically sensitive both inside and outside Iran. The future of Iran's economy is therefore inextricably linked to its political future and its relationship with the rest of the world. It's a tightrope walk between economic necessity, political ideology, and geopolitical realities. The potential of the Iranian economy is undeniable, but unlocking it will require a combination of bold internal reforms and a significant shift in the external landscape. It's a high-stakes economic drama with the well-being of over 85 million people hanging in the balance. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Iran's complex economic situation. If you found this analysis insightful, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more content that goes beyond the headlines. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.